Hello, everyone. In this interview, I am interviewing Jake Kelfer. Jake is a three times author, and not just any author. He's actually a best-selling author. But he's not just an author. He's also a business coach and a motivational speaker. Now, when I interviewed Jake on this episode, I was just amazed by all the knowledge that he has. And obviously, I shouldn't be surprised because of his level of entrepreneurship that he's at. But this season of Unleash Your Focus podcast, season 9, is about the experts. And what really stood out to me about Jake is that he's got this drive to really make an impact in this world. And it is so amazing to see. And I just know that you guys are going to learn so much from this episode. His new book, as we are speaking now, is October 2021, is just released, and it's called The Elevated Entrepreneur. And he actually gives away this book for free at this stage. So I strongly recommend to get your hands on that. But we're actually going to dive into this episode talking about this book, where he has interviewed very successful people and talking to them and actually getting their blueprints, etc., in this book. But enough about that. Have fun on this episode. And please do me a favor, subscribe to this episode and also comment below if you have any questions for Jake or myself. I'll see you guys on the inside of this interview. Hi, Jake. How are you doing?
I'm so good. I can already tell the energy's good. We're going to have a great conversation. So let's rock and roll.
This is exciting stuff. So can you tell people about you? Who's Jake on a normal day?
Yeah. So I'm just a regular dude that's going after my dreams. You know what I mean? Like, I am a guy that loves basketball. I love hanging out with my friends. I have an incredible family. And really my mission is to spread the feeling of elevation. So helping people realize their true potential, whether it's through business, whether it's through personal relationships, connections, so that they can achieve their own true definition of success.
How did this all come about? Because it's quite impactful. It's quite like looking at your website and the things that you've done. It's quite impactful. I'm looking at it and I'm feeling inspired. So how did this whole brand come about? How did this start for you?
I think it's always been a desire to do something bigger than myself.
Yeah.
And then to take action once I have some form of knowledge that can be shared and received by people who can then use that knowledge to grow. So when I started my career, I was working for the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, the reason I got that job was because I wanted to play for the Lakers, but I wasn't good enough to make the team. So I ended up working for them on the business side. When I was working for the Lakers, I wanted to do something more. And I asked myself two questions. What do I know? And how can I help people? And at the time, I didn't realize that those questions were pivotal in the world of entrepreneurship. But I was just like, well, what do I know? What knowledge do I have? And how can I use that knowledge to help somebody? Well, it just so happened that my brother was in college at the time and I was in a fraternity. So I had all these friends. And I was like, I know a lot about getting a good job, getting an internship. I know a lot about interviewing, networking, resume building. So I wrote a book on how to stand out in the job market at 23 years old. And it was kind of like ironic because people that had been working for longer than I had been alive were questioning, why was I writing a career development book at 23 years old, right? But I had knowledge. I had something that would help somebody. And as long as that made a difference, it was worth me putting in that effort and energy. Fast forward a little bit. I said, well, how can I help NBA players achieve their dream? Well, I was like, well, what do I know? I know people in the space. I know what they look for, and I know how to bring people together. So I created an event called the Pro Basketball Combine, where we helped over 70 players sign their first contract. I kept going and I kept going. And everything that I do, it's like, what do I know and how can I help people? Because when you have a specific amount of knowledge, you don't have to be the world's greatest expert to be able to get things done. You just have to be 1 to 2 steps above somebody else to be able to create the transformation that they desire. And so that's kind of taken me on this journey where I always am thinking about, what can I do based on what I know, love, passionate about, excited about, that can also help somebody get a result that they're looking for. And that's led us to doing some incredible things now where we help coaches and entrepreneurs build online businesses. We help coaches and experts create their first best-selling book because now I have 3. So it's all really exciting when you come down to it. But at the end of the day, it's just all about looking inward, realizing you have a gift, and being willing to share that gift with the world in a way that moves the needle forward.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you say being an expert is just being 2 steps ahead of somebody, because people have this perception, like if you're an expert, you have to make like $10 million and this and that. And you really don't, I mean, like I've definitely not made $10 million, but I have made an impact because I know more than the person that I'm helping. How did you come to that realization at first?
Well, I'm going to give a different answer than I normally would here because I want to take a perspective on this. Most of the time when we look at experts, we look at the world renowned, we look at the leaders, we look at the influencers, we look at the people that have done all the amazing things. Here's the challenge with that. When you are beginning and you're basing your business or your ideas or your strategies off of what those people are doing, it is unlikely to work for you at the level that you're at. And I experienced this in my own businesses is I'm like, okay, I want to get to this point. So I was trying to do the strategies that I saw the experts doing. Mm. The only problem was they had an infrastructure and systems and processes that I didn't have. So when I tried to implement what I saw them doing, it didn't work for me. Mm. That being said, what's important to realize is that you want to find people who have done what you're aiming to do, but who also still remember what it's like to be in your shoes. I have entrepreneurial friends who have created startups in the e-commerce space, in the online business space. And in the beginning, they were the ones handling the Facebook ads. But 3 years later, they have an agency and they haven't touched it in 4 years. But people still ask them for that conversation. And in reality, that's not the person you should really be learning from because they're so far removed from it. So when it comes to like realizing that you're an expert and being 1 to 2 steps ahead, it's about, do I know what they're going through? Can I relate to that person? And can I help take that person to the result that they want?
Yeah. I love that. And that is so, so true, because so many times you get this advice like, oh, just follow an expert or follow a super successful person. And it's great. I mean, surround yourself with those people, even if it's online, but it is very true what you say. Yeah, 100%. I think, Jake, can you tell me what has been your biggest challenge so far in your entrepreneurial journey?
I think I've had a lot of challenges. I think just like everyone else, we all have our own challenges that are unique to us. And then we have challenges that I think we all face at different stages of our businesses. And I think from a personal standpoint, one of the biggest challenges that I've always faced is I'm a very ambitious person. Yeah. I'm very go, go, go. I'm very high performance driven. And sometimes in that pursuit of being so ambitious and so go, 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 which many entrepreneurs are like because we are entrepreneurs. We want to achieve great results. Yeah. I think that one of the hardest lessons that I've learned and the biggest challenges was how do I enjoy myself in that pursuit of greatness? And how do I be more present? How do I slow down to speed up? How do I do less to do more? Right. And I really learned this because my mom is one of my icons and role models. And she always used to say, live in the moment and enjoy the journey. And, I just didn't understand it until I did. And so I think that, that's been one of my biggest challenges. And I've been able to really get better at that. And so one of the questions in my new book that I literally ask people is, how do you relentlessly pursue success, excellence, and greatness while at the same time enjoy the journey? Because I think that so many people are always chasing something. We're always going after something, yet we forget that we only get one life. And if we're so focused on a result, we may pick up our head 10 years from now and be like, cool, I have all this business success, but what about my life experience? What about the fun? What about the memories? What about the great friendships that I could have made? And so I'm really, really big now on working my butt off, doing whatever I can to make things work, but also making sure that I enjoy and I have space for fun, gratitude, and presence.
Yeah. And that's very important to enjoy the journey, because as entrepreneurs, we forget, right? Because you're so busy chasing things and you forget your family. Now, that brings me to my next question. How do you find your entrepreneurial journey, basically linking up with your family and your friends and things like that? Because I know when I started out like 3 years ago, I was very focused, so focused on my business that I kind of pushed my family to the side. And I told the story on my podcast before, and I literally burned out. And one morning I woke up and I'm like, why am I doing this? I'm hating this at the moment. And I realized in that moment that I've been a horrible wife, I've been a horrible mom, because I've been focusing on my business. Now, we tend to do that as entrepreneurs. How do you balance that?
Yeah. So I'm currently, as of the recording, I'm a single man in my late 20s. Yeah. So my answer is maybe a little bit different than someone who's already a parent, right? Because we have different availabilities. We have different priorities. But what I do is it's really important to me that I always have time in my schedule for the people that I care most about. So the way I actually design my schedule is I put the most important things and people first, meaning I look at, how do I view success? Success is having freedom to do what I want with who I want, whenever I want to. And so I put on my calendar conversations with my parents or my brother or my friends before I put in some of my work stuff. Nice. I make sure that I always have time. When I'm dating, something that I think is really important in dating is communication. For anyone that's single or even in relationships, is like, I always have a date night. So previously with my last girlfriend, Thursdays were our date night. So Thursday at 5 o'clock and on, it was blocked off. And I always make sure that when I schedule based on my priorities, not just based on the business, because I'm not trying to build my life around my business. I'm building the business around the life I want to live. And so when it comes to priorities and scheduling, I always focus on, what do I really want? Who do I really want to spend my time with? And everything that goes into my calendar is a choice. Us being on the calendar, it's a choice. We're both excited about this. This was a hell yeah, I want to be a part of this. This is so awesome, right? And I think that that's something that's really important, is sometimes we put on our calendar what's expected, or we put on our calendar all of the work things because we want to seem busy. We want to seem like our calendars are full. In reality, what should be on the calendar are things that help us achieve our definition of success. The people we love, the time for ourselves. I have time for me. I literally have Jake time on my calendar because it's just time to think. So I think that those are some really practical ways to be focused again on the present, but also setting your priorities straight for what you want to achieve in your life.
Yeah. And I do love that. Put yourself first and then build everything around that. It is so important for entrepreneurship. Alex Sharfin is very big on self-care first and then business. And yeah, definitely. Jake, please tell me about your new book. I am so excited. Please, can we dive into it and tell us just about, what can people expect when they read this book?
Okay. So this book is called The Elevated Entrepreneur. Yes. And I got to be honest, I'm the most excited I've ever been about a book release. Okay. This one's awesome because it's not just me as the author. Meaning, what I did for this book is I interviewed 39 of the world's greatest coaches, performers, and experts in a way to bring the knowledge that they have to the forefront and accessible to every entrepreneur. So we have people like John Lee Dumas, Pat Flynn, Lori Harder, Chris Ducker, the holistic psychologist. I mean, we have people all across the world in this book giving their best tips and tricks, sharing their best advice. And what you're going to learn when you read this book, and this is why I'm so excited about it, is because not only are you going to get to hear stories and experiences from some of the best in the world, but you're going to get to see, what are they doing? What are the wildly successful doing differently than everybody else? You're going to learn, how do you build relationships that can change your business overnight? You're going to learn, how do you actually achieve freedom? You're going to learn, what is the one action you should do every day to be the best of yourself? And you're also going to learn the tools and technology that these entrepreneurs recommend to help you save thousands of dollars a year on your tools, your software, your tech suite, and everything. So it's really a super practical book mixed with tons of inspirational stories, all coming from the people that you know, love, and trust the most in this entrepreneurial world.
I'm definitely getting this. Guys, please, we're going to leave the link below and go and get your book today. I think it's going to be, because your other books have been bestsellers, right, Jake?
Yes, they've all been Amazon bestsellers. We've sold thousands of copies around the world. But this one I think is going to be the biggest.
I was going to say, can you have a triple bestseller? Like, can it actually be like can they have a thing to say like the bestseller book? Because I think this is definitely way up there. And as you're mentioning these entrepreneurs, these are people that I follow and have been following for years. And it's amazing that you actually got them all together how did you do that? How did you get them all together and be in one book?
So this is something that I love to talk about, because this is one of the questions that people ask me the most is how do you get access to some of the world's greatest people?
Yeah.
And, in my last book, I talk all about, it's called Elevate Your Network. So it's all about building relationships, nurturing relationships, and growing this incredible network. And so I use all the strategies there to get access to these people, but it's a combination of people that were already in my network. Mm-hmm. It's a combination of introductions from other people, and it's a combination of cold outreach. So I actually put a section in the book called Fun Facts, and I break down how each interview was done. So within each interview, there's a section called How We Met. And I tell the story of how I was actually able to connect with this particular person to get them to say yes to this. Some of them, I was introduced to them 10 minutes before we recorded. Others, I have been looking up to for 10 years. So like Pat Flynn, for example, and John Lee Dumas, they were some of the first podcasts I ever listened to in entrepreneurship. And I've been following them for the last 5 years. Now I was able to get introduced by people in my circle to have them be part of this book. Another person that's in the book, his name is John Gordon. He's like my favorite author. I've been looking up to him since I was 18 years old. I have a quote from him from one of his books that's been on my wall for the last decade. So it's really cool because I share all the stories of how these interviews came to be. And then I also share the stats so that people could see, okay, how many were cold outreaches? How many were introductions? How many followers did it matter? I break it all down because what I want everyone to realize is that people are people. And if you know the right strategies, and if you come from a place of authenticity and realness, and you create something of value to add, you can get in touch with anybody in the world. Obviously, some people are harder than others.
Yes.
But when you put in the work and you build relationships, great things are going to happen. Like it's just that simple. And so, I can go into so much more tactical stuff, but you're going to get to see exactly how all these interviews came when you get the book, as well as all the stats behind how we were able to make these happen.
And it's so awesome that you actually share this journey, because a lot of times people just see the end result and they don't see the behind the scenes thing. And this brings me to my next question, because Unleash Your Focus podcast is about diving in behind the scenes to understand what makes successful people successful. So like you, Jake, I am obsessed with it. I speak to entrepreneurs that are successful on a weekly basis on and off my podcast. And I've interviewed over 70 people now on my podcast. So I'm really obsessed with this, right? So if you look at your life so far and what you've achieved, what do you think has been the greatest, or the thing that made you so far successful?
Oh, this is the easiest answer I could ever answer. It's my network. Yeah, the ability to have a strong network is directly correlated to your ability to have success and happiness based on your definition. Okay. And I think that the entire reason I've been able to achieve what I've achieved at this point in my life, and obviously I want to achieve so much more, but the reason I've been able to do what I've done is because I've learned from people better than me. I've asked good questions, and I've listened to what people actually have to say. Once you take that and you combine that with action, that's where success comes in. And so we've been able to build a formula around this, which I call the ACE method. Okay. And the ACE method is a combination of these principles, which is aligned action, where you're always taking positive and intentional action. The C is for connection. Your network, your ability to connect, your ability to know who to connect with, when to connect with them, how to effectively do it. And then the E is enjoy the journey. When you take aligned action, you connect with the right people, and you enjoy yourself in the process, boom, you're going to be able to see some great, great, great success. But I think if there was one thing, the answer that I would say is hands down, without a doubt, the network that I have built has been the reason for my enjoyment, has been the reason for my growth, has been the enjoyment for my success, and so much more. So I really attribute a lot of my success to my network.
And I love that. And it seems like networking with people and building a relationship has been the topic of the month, because I've spoken to literally like 10 plus people about this just in the last week. And it's amazing, and very successful people. I remember I interviewed Blake Newbar. I don't know if you know him, probably about 2 years ago on my podcast. He was one of the very first successful people I've interviewed. And the advice that he gave me that stuck with me ever since is build relationships. That's it. That's how you build your business, build relationships. And I have been doing it ever since. And guys, it's amazing. If you build relationships, the things that you get out of that. And it's not for yourself, but it's for other people, connecting people. And like you say, you get referred, and it's just building your network. Isn't it that thing, your network is your net worth? There's a saying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. They always say that. I think what's interesting is, I think you could ask any entrepreneur in the world, is networking important? And everyone will say, yes, build relationships. It's the most valuable currency you have. Your network is your net worth. But here's the challenge. Most people are aware that this is something we should do, but very few people know how to effectively build it in a way that actually produces results. Yeah. And I think that there are certain reasons for this. And the biggest reason is that people say it's important, but the reason we don't build network is because we're afraid of being rejected. And we're afraid that if we try to reach out to someone that we consider super successful and they don't respond, then we aren't really that good.
That's
or
true.
If we try to reach out to someone who's even like equal with us in our business stage and they don't respond to us, then maybe we start to feel, oh, well, we're not as good. And the truth of the matter is we are not in the business of selling products or creating offers. We're in the business of people. You can't get married without a person. You can't you can't have a business without a customer. You need people to be able to achieve success. Yet we don't make that our priority. We make the priority in business trying to get the offer done, getting the lead magnet done, getting the website designed, posting 5 times on social media a week because the gurus say you got to post every single day, whatever. What we need to do though is what's going to get us customers? What's going to get us relationships? What's going to get us partnerships? It's building relationships. It's connecting with people. It's finding commonalities. It's getting introductions. It's doing something that not everyone else is willing to do so that you can get access to people that not everybody can get access to. That's one of the big reasons I wrote this book was if I tried to just message Pat Flynn or Lori Harder, I just try to message them and I said, hey, can I talk to you? They're going to say no. Yeah. They're going to say, pay me money, right? But if I write a book and I can feature someone in this book and I can promote them and I could get in front of thousands and thousands of people. Well, now what I've just done is I've jumped to the top of you know what? Let's look at this a little more closely. So when you're building relationships, we all have something of value to give. We just have to find out what that is based on what we're looking to do with our relationships.
I love that. That is really, really awesome. And yeah, and it's so funny because people would just reach out and expect this great relationship, but there's techniques, there's frameworks, right? Hashtag goals. I always ask this question. I have to. Jake, how do you set goals? What's your framework?
Oh, my framework for goals. So, it's interesting. As a very, like I said, I'm a very goal-oriented person. Yeah. However, I've really learned to release some of the expectation of the outcome of the goals. Okay. So I will set my goals. I will have goals, but I will always make sure now I try to is release the expectation and let them happen while still taking aligned and intentional action. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So my framework with goals is I tend to, set all different types of goals. But the idea here is that, people use the SMART method, people make SMART goals, whatever it is. I always want something specific. Let's just like SMART, like I want it to be measurable, but I always make sure that the goal is in alignment with me and it's not for my ego. Yeah. The goal that I try to set and the ones that I actually achieve the most are when it comes from a place of alignment, not from a place of vanity, a place of, oh, look how good I just did. And I always make sure that I push myself, but they're not so out there that it becomes unreachable, which makes me say, oh, it's not reachable. So therefore I'm not going to go after it. Right. So I have all different types of goals, but I have some that are smaller, some that are like right in the middle of like, I may or may not hit them. And then I have a few that are like, if I hit these goals before the time frame, that would be unbelievable because you always got to go big. But at the same time, you always got to make sure that you can take the right actions to get there. And you may not know how you're going to achieve all your goals, but that's not necessarily up to you. You need to be the one doing the work and let the how and the rest of it kind of figure itself out based on the people you connect with, the universe, and all these other things that come into play. So I hope that gives a little insight into kind of my framework and kind of how I've released some of that expectation as I try to be more present while also still being very grounded in the data, the metrics, and the achievement.
I like that. I really like the way that you do that. It's almost like you're putting like pressure on yourself, but not stress on yourself to achieve it.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Yes.
Yeah, I like that. Jake, another big question for you. So routines are big when it comes to entrepreneurship, exercise, meditation, journaling, whatever like you do on a daily basis. So what do you do on a daily basis to keep you motivated and active and basically in momentum?
I do so many different things. But typically on a day-to-day basis is the first thing I do when I wake up is I meditate for 3 minutes. It's the first thing I do. It kind of wakes me up. It kind of also is a good time for me because I'm not fully awake. So I can really process and kind of let my mind wander. And then I go straight into deep work. So I actually do an hour to 2 hours of deep work every single morning. From there, I will go into stretching. I will do exercise. I will eat. I will shower. And then I will go into my mantra and the rest of the workday. Okay. But I always do deep work first. And I think that that's been one of my favorite changes of my routine. That being said, I think that something that I struggled with for the longest time was I try to do everything in my routine because everyone's like, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, right? You need to meditate for 7 minutes. You need to do yoga for 8. You need to read 3 pages of a book. You need to drink 18 ounces of water, whatever, right?
A lot.
And it's a lot. And I tried to do all of those things, but that made me hate the routine. And then when you hate the routine, I wasn't doing the routine. So what I've really trained myself is I find the routine that works for me. And I've given myself permission to edit the routine as I learn new things or as I want to try new things, which is interesting because the definition of a routine is the same thing. But I find that having permission to expand and experiment with your routine while keeping your framework gives you freedom, gives you choice, gives you the opportunity to find something even better. Yeah. Okay. Besides that, I also have other routines as well. So one of the things that I do that I don't see a lot of people doing is I call it the wind down routine. Okay. And so one of the things that I used to struggle with as well was switching off my brain. Switching from work to pleasure or switching from like, okay, the work day's done. I got dinner with some friends. Or I got a date or whatever it is. But then I would just be thinking about all the business stuff because that's entrepreneurs. We always love this. Like we love this. And so what I did is I put together what I call the wind down routine. And this helps me really switch it and change gears, my trigger to switch. And what I do is I review the day. I handwrite my schedule for the next day. I review my 3 to 5 priorities. I set my next 3 to 5 priorities, and then I express a little bit of gratitude. And that allows me to say, what a great day. We gave it our best. This went well. This didn't go well. We know what we got to do tomorrow. Let's get on there. But for tonight, let's go be. Let's go live. Let's go experience life. And that has been a huge thing for me to be able to become even more present with the people that I want to be spending my time with. Because like I said, I know what's on the calendar and I choose what's on there. So I really want to make sure that whatever's on the calendar, I can be present for and I can have the right energy. And doing that allows me to have great energy, a lot of excitement, and I feel good about that transition.
That is a really awesome routine. And I love that at the end of the day that you do your gratitude, because that's important, right? To be grateful for the things that other people don't have and just for your own things. Definitely.
Yeah. Gratitude is unbelievable. I think gratitude is one of those things that is game changing because I think that for me and a lot of the entrepreneurs I work with, everyone's so focused on achieving the result. Right? And we've talked about this a little bit. Gratitude is the one thing that I find that allows you to be 100% present because it allows you to be grateful for the journey, allows you to be grateful for what you do have, not just what you desire. It allows you to be like, my life is pretty darn good, even though all these other things are going on that are out of my control. And, there are so many types of gratitude. But the 3 that I really recommend is doing gratitude in journaling form. I recommend doing gratitude in a cold shower or on a walk. And then I recommend what's called pillow gratitude, anytime your head touches a pillow, you express 3 things you're grateful for. And it's a really cool thing because you're doing it before bed, and then it's allowing your mind to process greatness. And on top of that, though, the really cool thing about gratitude that I have found to be just super incredible is it brings so much joy to what you do have and to the journey that it allows you to celebrate the wins more. It allows you to appreciate yourself more. It allows you to fill up your own cup, and it allows you to take a break from expectation and pressure and stress, because you can look inward and be like, I'm doing the thing. I'm grateful for it. And it's just such a beautiful thing. So I'm a big gratitude guy.
Yeah, I love that. And we, as a family, we do it. I know you're not a family man as such, but we have every single night. I've got 2 kids, a 4 and a 7-year-old, and every single night they have to say 3 things that they're thankful for. And it's part of it. We've been doing it for at least almost, I'm going to say 2 years now. And I've got a 4-year-old, and he's grateful for trees and the moon. And it's amazing what comes out of little bodies. And you're thinking, yeah, that's actually things as adults, we grow up and we forget about, like, being grateful for just the little things like trees and the moon, which actually, let's be real, is making a big impact in this world. Without it, we're screwed. So
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Jake, as I mentioned before, this podcast is going behind the scenes to understand what makes successful people successful. Now, some of the people that do listen to this podcast are people that they have started a business and they stuck, or they had failures and they just like struggling to get going again, or they're just sitting on that fence and they're just not sure if they want to get going. What advice would you have for somebody that is sitting on the fence, and or if they're stuck, what can they do to get out of that, I can say, rut?
Okay, so I think there's so many things that we can do. But ultimately the thing we have to do is we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we actually want for success? Because so often we're stuck because we don't know where we're going, or we're not achieving success because we're going in the wrong direction. And so what I would say is you have to first identify, what does success actually mean to you? And be honest with yourself. And this may be a very difficult and real conversation, because you might not be at the lifestyle that you want to be at. But guess what? By having this conversation, you're going to already be on the right path. So that would be the first thing that I would say, is get clear on, what does success look like to me, not to society, not to Jake, not to Joy, not to the other listeners. What does it look like to me? And then once you identify that, it's, what's the one thing I can do today that will get me closer to that result? Success for somebody who's listening to this might be getting to 10K in a month. Success for somebody here might be making your first $3,000 so you can go on a vacation around the world. Success is going to be different. Success might be building enough recurring revenue so that you can have an extra hour with your kids before bed. Whatever it is, you got to identify that, because once you're clear on that and you have the direction, you can figure out what the action is. And my dad always says, when we're stuck, the only shortcut is to start now. And it's crazy because we all want the end result, but we're always waiting until we're ready, until there's the perfect time. That time is right now. It's you listening to this podcast, putting it down and saying, let's freaking go. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's really important that we focus on these things. Let's get clarity and let's get direction. And then let's put our first step forward. Let's take one step in that right direction. And on top of all that, in the book, I ask all the experts, what is the one action you recommend doing to become the best you can be? I ask them, how can you move forward and take action even when you face the internal doubts and external adversity? So sure, while we can give great answers, there's 39 people that have given their answer for you, that have achieved all the success that you guys aim to look for. And I reread this over and over again because it's so valuable to learn and to figure out what works for you. That's what I would say on that.
And I think, guys, just to add to what Jake is saying, if you are feeling stuck or, any of those things, just start by getting his book. Seriously, because I think that's a great way to start. Go and model what other people do, or get advice. Even if you don't have in your immediate circle, even if you don't have successful people, go online and start by his book. I mean, I'm definitely buying that book. I'm not missing out. So thank you so much, Jake. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much. We will drop all your links below. We'll make sure that, it's clickable and people can reach out to you. And yeah, definitely, guys, again, go and get Jake's book. Highly, strongly recommend that you do. So, Jake, before we finish this podcast, is there anything else that you want to add to the audience?
I would just say, no matter where you're at in your journey, you keep going. No matter what you've been through, no matter what you've done, there are things that are out of our control. We can't always control what happens to us. We always get to choose how we respond to these situations. And so I would just say, for anybody that's listening to this, if they're listening to you, they're doing something right, because you're asking great questions. You're interviewing some amazing people. And I would just say, you got to keep going. You got to keep fighting, and you got to keep connecting with great people. Yes. Just try it. One connection a day. That's all it takes. One connection a day. That's going to build. It's going to snowball. One action a day. Our results are compounded just like money in the stocks, just like money in when you invest. Our actions, our connections, everything compounds. And so I just want to, tell everyone to keep on going, no matter if it's been a rough year, no matter if it's been your best year ever. Let's keep going. Let's change the world. Let's do our thing, and let's elevate.
I love it. That's fantastic advice. Jake, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being a guest on the podcast. This has been fun. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had a great time.
Cheers.